Donkey Kong Bananza without punching is a challenge multiple people have tried before, but that was almost a year ago. Nobody's made an updated version of this challenge. So with my knowledge of the game, I'm hoping to bring some new light into this challenge and bring down the number of punches. Even just one punch being removed is good enough for me. I'm sure you guys already know it, but a punch is counted when I press X, Y, or B while Donkey Kong isn't holding a chunk. If he is holding a chunk, he'll do a swing instead of a punch. Grabbing, rolling, slapping the ground, and throwing are also not counted as punches, obviously. I'm also not counting cutscene punches, which are only shown at the very beginning of the game. If I did count these, we'd have 6 punches on our counter by the time we reached the boss of Ingot Isle. This boss, along with most other bosses, are made of breakable material. This lets us use our grab ability to tear off their skin and smack it right back at them to win the fight. Usually after winning a boss battle, this giant purple thing called a void stake will show up, and grabbing along with rolling deals enough damage to break it. This brings us to the Lagoon layer, where I didn't find myself running into any issues. Even though I can't punch, I can still move around pretty quickly and get past this layer and the next few layers without trouble. I collected the Kong and Ostrich Bonanza during the layers I skipped just now, and the only kind of scary part I ran into here was during the Forest layer. There was a button I'd have to use a downward punch on to break a bunch of thorns, but since I've done a destructionless run before, I knew I could easily jump through these thorns. This brings us to the Tempest Lair, where everyone else who made a video on this challenge ended up having to punch. Multiple times. During the Tempest Lair, there's a boss battle that goes on over the course of the entire lair. In this boss battle, we can throw chunks at the boss to weigh them down and start grabbing to deal damage. Easy. But after the fight, the boss will open up this giant hole that shoots out a bunch of wind, forcing us to do a downward punch to reach the next area. Thankfully, that's only optional, because if we simply dig a hole to the outside world, there's a spot under this balcony area that has no collision. So we can use the Ostrich Bonanza that gives us flight to simply fly under the wind and reach the next area. Morph23, one of the people who made a video on this challenge, found this out, so that's pretty cool. This next area is easy. We need to grab some discs and use them to grab the Elephant Bonanza to grab this key inside of this tornado using the elephant's trunk, and after that we get to this second fight against the boss of this lair. It's still easy, but we have to get through this second hole of wind now. I thought of using the same strategy to get through this hole that I used for the first hole. Find a way to get out of bounds and fly through. Unfortunately, this didn't end up working. I tried multiple times, but I don't even think I got close. So I had to pull out my secret weapon. With co-op mode, we can copy any material and place it down wherever we want. So maybe we can throw materials into the hole, or not. Kind of just floats in the air a bit. Well, maybe we can build over the hole. It's possible the materials sort of freezing in the air can slowly help us build downward, and maybe we can push ourselves through the wind using the materials. That was my thinking behind this, and while it wasn't really working that well, I was slowly getting pushed down by the materials I placed. This wasn't going to be enough though. I wish it was, but I can't do anything about it, so that's one punch. The rest of this layer ended up being pretty easy, up until we reached the very next hole that has wind. Even though I punched for the previous hole, I was still holding on to hope, thinking my strategy of pushing DK downward would maybe work, but I ended up finding out that it still doesn't work. However, I did find something quite interesting. While I was messing around with the materials, Donkey Kong ended up standing and then flew upward. Huh? That's weird. Because of this, I decided to test something out. Can Donkey Kong walk through the wind? Yes, he absolutely can. If Donkey Kong steps into the wind without any interruptions, he will not be affected by the wind. So, in order to get through this wind, we'd have to slowly build a downward bridge and have Donkey Kong walk down that bridge without ever falling or jumping. This is possible, and we can get straight through the wind and reach the final boss battle of this layer. I am 100% sure this is possible. However, this is extremely precise and there's no way I'm just going to do this. I tried for a pretty long time, but I kept messing up my chunk placements or tried to reshape the ground and got blasted into the air. So I didn't make this bridge legitimately, but I will be counting this as a success. Also, that punch I had to do earlier can be avoided by making a bridge. So now we're back to 0 punches. Anyways, I take out this boss with no issues. Oh, this part. So, we have to do a downward punch to finish this battle. And this is almost a cutscene, but we can still move around and whatnot. But, yeah, back to one jump. After completing this battle, I breezed through the Landfill, Racing, Radiance, and Groove layers. Pretty easy. I was able to play through these layers almost normally. Unfortunately, one of those layers does require a punch. Right after we complete the Groove layer, we have to save this little rock dude while we're both falling down some hole. The only move we can really do here is a downward punch. So, that's punch number 2. And after that punch, we reach another layer that had multiple punches in all the other videos of this challenge run. The Feast layer. In this layer, we're told to do some downward punches on these burger-shaped pressure switches. And there's 5 of these things. But if you've watched my Smashin' Stats video, or any speedrun of this game for that matter, you probably know this entire layer can be skipped. If we simply grab this dirt chunk right by the Royal Oil Cruise, we can chuck it on the ceiling and phase right through the wall. I'm not going to explain it, but this is called an acute angle clip. This lets us fly all the way to the boss of this layer without punching. Our next layer is the Forbidden layer. It's pretty easy, and the next layer after that is the Planet Core, which is also really easy for the most part. The only hard part here is this giant ball that we can only move with a punch from the Kong Bananza. We don't really need to move it though. Simply flying past the ball with the Ostrich Bonanza is perfectly fine. This can take us to the final boss, which we can grab a bunch to beat, and the same goes for the final boss. Grabbing works perfectly fine. So now, we've beaten Donkey Kong Bananza while only punching 2 times. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice in the exact same way. One downward punch was used to defeat a boss, and another downward punch was used to save this odd rock. But yeah, I'd say I'm happy with the results of this challenge. The original score was improved by quite a lot. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If I ever end up actually making that bridge, I'll probably make a main channel video on it. But for now, subscribe and all that good stuff. Good night.